The weather last week, that little groundhog was right. Depending on the level of chaos that last week brought you, you were either in a winter wonderland or a winter nightmare. For my family, last week was insane. We lost power for well over 70 hours and partially lost water. When our house reached 48 degrees on the inside, we bugged out and we headed to my in-laws' house that also had no power and zero water, but we at least had a source of heat to keep us warm. While I could complain over little inconveniences, we are very thankful that once everything came back on, it was all fine. I saw lots of pictures of flooded homes, and even some people in our church had their homes or apartments flooded. We are very, very thankful. Sure, we had to melt snow to flush the toilet, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. Growing up, I had a babysitter named Monica, and every once in a while we would go with her to her church during the week so that she could clean. For whatever reason, I never forgot a sign that they had posted in their church office. It said this: "Blessed are the flexible, for they won't be bent out of shape." Now that sounds like a beatitude from Matthew chapter 5, but it's not. It's actually not in the Bible at all. But that doesn't make it not true. Last week we had a good amount of freezing rain here in central Texas, and as you can imagine, that put a lot of stress on the trees, with many of them breaking under the heavy weight. As a matter of fact, I got a call from someone at our church that a large tree in their front yard was about to break and crush both their house and their car. Thankfully, our church was able to mobilize a few guys to cut down the massive tree before it could cause major damage. But not all trees broke under the weight last week. Some trees, recently planted in new neighborhoods, were bending like Neo from the Matrix. They were flexible. Now, in simple terms, a tree's flexibility is largely based on its age and its type. They don't have a whole lot of say in the matter, but you and I do. You and I can choose to be flexible, or we can choose to be rigid. There are several psychological studies that conclude that it's not really what happens to a person, but how they react to it and how they process it that truly matters. That the exact same event can happen to two people, yet they can have two very different long-term outcomes depending on how they deal with it. Now, none of us chose the weather last week, and no one wanted to be hunkered down for a few days. But those who were flexible and those who rolled with the punches had a much better week than those who chose to pout over the circumstances that they could not control. The winter chaos is over, but let's not forget the lesson that those flexible trees can teach us. We can be frustrated that our expectations are not our reality, which only makes life worse, or we can accept where we are and what's happening, even if we don't like it, and make the most of it. Here's what I know about you, because it's also true about me. When you're not flexible, you're not loving, you're not happy, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're mean, you're selfish, you fly off the handle. Christians, we're not to be like this. We're to be full of the Spirit, exhibiting joy and love and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. That's Galatians 5:22 through 23 if you want to look it up. Here's my challenge to you. The next time you feel your frustration just starting to mount, let that be a check engine light on the dashboard of your life to let you know that you're in danger of breaking like an old tree because you're choosing not to be flexible. God has only given you one today and one life, so don't spend it frustrated. Hey, I hope you were encouraged by this video. If you were, would you please consider sharing it? And be sure to subscribe so that you can catch the next one when it drops on Tuesday. Now, before we go, I got a lot of winter weather images from you all that I wanted to showcase. So here's a montage of the best submissions that I got. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time. Grace and peace.